But also the retear rate went from 20%, 20 to 25% to upwards of 30 to 39%. So why is this going up instead of coming down? So there's a lot of variables out there, but I'll just name a few. One is improper rehab, early return to sport, and misinformation about what's going on. You know, and I think that that's really what we're here to kind of. Again, it's not a perfect science. There's no way to really truly standardize this, but what I believe that the system that Mike and I are creating is something that's going to give the parent and the athlete a more concrete way of like from day one when they walk in, what to expect. These are the milestones. These are the check marks. These are the things that you need to do in order to get to the next step. Does it guarantee that it won't happen again? No. But if we're doing all these things, it definitely is going to lower the risk for it happening again.
Let's just briefly touch on these quote unquote injury prevention programs. So, there's a lot of misinformation on this out there. And I think a lot of people think that injury prevention is like its standalone thing where girls just do body weight balance drills and mini band walks and warm up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not enough for the forces that cause ACL tears. Would you say a lot of these injury prevention programs are kind of babying our female athletes?
100%. I mean, if you're not lifting weights, and like I know that you're a big proponent of that, if you're not strength training at least twice a week, minimum twice a week, that's not preventing it. Right. Okay. I get doing a warm up, working on balance. They're the things that you should be doing outside of the actual strength training sessions, right? Like we can we can give out online home programs to do. This is a 25, 30-minute little program that you can do at home. That's to supplement or to complement what you're already doing in strength training. If you're not actually lifting weights, and that doesn't mean, you know, and this isn't a knock on PT, but like if you go into a physical therapy place and they have a TRX hanging and a couple 8-pound weights and a 12-pound kettlebell in there and they call themselves a return to play environment, you're missing the mark big time. I mean, these girls need to be with proper instruction, right? Need to be really strength training. And I think that still the misnomer out there is that girls lifting weights are going to make them big and bulky, and it's not true. It's not true. So
Would you say a lot of the patients who have come to you with ACL tears had no previous background in that progressed strength training and really pushing it in the gym?
Hey guys, just want to take a quick moment to shout out our sponsor, Simply Faster, and one of my favorite speed timing systems from them, the Freelap. I use it for my own sprint training as well as for my athletes, and they love it. It's super easy to set up, you can take it to the field on your own, and you can get accurate speed times to track your progress. Check the Freelap link in the caption below to start adding timing into your speed sessions. If you know me, you know I love my Freelap. If you're serious about speed, it's time to start timing.
I would say probably 90% of them come in there and have never really strength trained before. And I know that simply A, by asking them, and B, by seeing them not be able to handle a 40-pound goblet squat. Right? I mean, like, and they're shaking like a tree, a palm tree in a hurricane. You know, like they're just not able to handle it. I mean, that's your basic foundational, you know, movements. You know, forget about trap bar deadlifting and things like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would say that most of them come in there. Now, again, I'm picking on a specific group of people because you work with females, and I would say 85% of my business is 13 to 22-year-old female athletes, and I'd say most of them, the majority of them, are soccer athletes. So, but yeah, them strength training, I don't see that, and that's what we try to explain to them is by getting you back to that 10, 11, 12-month mark, we're just getting you back to a true baseline, right? Now the strength training actually begins, like where we can really start to add some, you know, some load to what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, just getting them back to that point is just still baseline stuff. Yeah.
So I want to talk about those later stages. I think usually by month 8, month 9 post op, a couple things happen to people. one, insurance runs out, or two, it doesn't run out, but their surgeon is like, the graft's healed, you're good to go, you're surgically cleared. And then people see that as, oh, I'm done. I can go back to sport, full force, full minutes, full contact. And then that's when we get into that recipe for disaster with re-tears. So, have you had that happen often where people get to that stage and they're like, "Peace out, we're done, see ya."
That's the really difficult wheelhouse, is like you said, that 8 to 12 month mark, is because yes, some of them are getting cleared at 6, 7 months from the surgeon, right? Now again, this is no knock on orthopedic surgeons whatsoever, but we've had them on our podcast, right? And they've even said it. There's only so much that they can do. Once their work is done, they rely on the physical therapist and the strength coach to then take that to the next step. But when a parent and an athlete hears that they're cleared, sometimes because they don't have the right information, right, which is one of the variables of why they're re-tearing, they hear that and they automatically think, okay, well, I'm good to go back to doing X, Y, and Z. And there's progressions to that. And that's the system that we've started to build out, is that there, these are the check marks, these are the things. Now we're also using objective data, right? Which is another piece that, again, we can harp on a little bit of, the subjective testing and this outdated testing that we're still seeing, the single leg hop test. Like I had Mike Boyle on our podcast, and even he said, what athlete is hopping on a single leg 3 times in a row and then in diagonal and then for speed? Like we're using objective data like the Dorsey movement assessment, where they're doing planking, side planking, single leg squatting, single leg hopping vertically, hopping in 4 different directions. We're using a quick board, which is the neurocognitive end, where we can in less than 4 minutes assess their agility. And then there's programs on there that we've laid out from stage one all the way through return to play, where they're doing agility movements off the board. But we're using this board, which is a 3x2, that can gather so much information. We're measuring, contact time, symmetry, explosiveness, accuracy, and all these. Like you're just not seeing that in a subjective testing return to play. So, not to get off topic with it, but it's just that 8 to 12 month time frame is just, and it varies, right? Every athlete is going to be a little bit different. Sure, an athlete may look good at that 9 month mark, but the risk to reward doesn't really make sense. And that's what I try to explain to an athlete without fear mongering. I'm just saying, listen, do you want to go back to week 1 through 4? Remember what week 1 through 4 or 1 through 8 was. Why take that chance at that 7, 8, 9 month mark and just work on doing more things? And then what we have is, again, the system that we've created. There's check marks, there's guidelines, there's milestones. It's like going to school. If you don't have 70%, you shouldn't advance to the next level. Now, with the educational system, we're passing people through, just like we're doing with this here. Okay, you look good. Okay, it's the 12-week mark or the 16-week mark. You're ready to run. No, you're not. You're not ready to run until you're ready to run, right? There's steps that need to get to that point. So I think that what happens is when that surgeon clears them, that's what the parent and the athlete are thinking. But a lot of them, not their fault, they don't know what that truly means. And not everyone has access to that next level of care, right? Because sometimes it's 6 months, which is a long time in physical therapy, you're cleared. And PT's going, just go back to the gym and do your thing and get on the treadmill and run. And here you go. We're gonna program the speed. Again, not everyone has access to the treadmills that we have, where your force is producing, or your force is producing that speed for you, right? Instead of prescribing, okay, I'm going to run at 6.3 miles an hour. Like, no, like you're going to run it how you run. Plus they don't really give you the proper striking mechanics and things like that, which becomes a whole other thing, right? Just because you can run doesn't mean you know how to run. Running is an art, and understanding. So again, the assessment tools that we have, we're really diving in deep. To me, I tell the parent, it's like a GPS. I could drive from Florida to California tomorrow, but it might take me 3 or 4 weeks. If I have a GPS, it might take me 3 or 4 days. So what we're doing is we're able to dial in exactly on the deficiencies that the athlete has and really be able to say, okay, listen, Billy or Sally needs to get to this point before we can do the next thing with them. That's up to the athlete to get to that point. If they don't do that, then they don't pass and they don't go to the next thing. We don't just do it because it's criteria based and you go, okay, well, you've gotten to that mark and it's time to do X.
I have a lot of questions about the assessment piece. So I think you touched on a good point that some of it is very objective and then some is more subjective, and it's the coach's eye looking at, okay, how is their movement, how is their stability? And with like some of the strength assessments, how do you feel about the single leg press for the quad strength, or are you using other modalities to kind of assess that quad strength?
So with the quad strength, in the early stages, you can use the handheld dynamometer, where you're testing, quad and hamstring strength. But really, it's the numbers, right? You're seeing the numbers on the athlete. What we're really looking at is limb quality, and the symmetry between the two, right? Because we're always trying, and not to get on a soapbox with the biodex because that's a whole other thing. Mike and I just talked about
I have
that, and
questions about that too.
yeah, well, I think Mike would even be able to answer them better. But like with that, it's just like you're seated, you're strapped in, you're using leverage, and like it's not functional,
Yeah.
right? Okay, that might maybe be good early on, but to use that as your okay, you're cleared to do X, Y, and Z. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Like
It's
a
not functional. You
9-month
don't,
post-op.
yeah, and
Yeah.
insurance. I have athletes come. Matter of fact, I've had 3 athletes that I ended up sending over to Mike to do some later testing because I was down in Florida. He would not do the subjective testing that the hospital or the surgeon wanted them to do because it's not doesn't make any sense to him. But because they're through insurance, insurance wants to see that these are the testings that need to be done in order for them to actually be cleared to go back to playing. Makes no sense to me. I really just don't understand that. But the single leg press, I mean, sure. I mean, that could be part of the program that you're doing. And if you can see that the athletes' numbers are going up, great. But what we want to see is quality of movement. And that Dorsavi movement assessment that was created by Dr. Trent Nessler, uh, that's what we're really looking at. Because if you don't have the quality and you don't have the symmetry, that's where the re-tear and things can come in. Of course, strength is a piece of that. That's what we're doing. That's the hardest piece because I don't truly believe that physical therapists understand the program design and the proper progression to that, right? You're seeing a lot in PT, 3 sets of 15, blah, 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 and they're using an 8-pound weight and they're doing, they don't even have the amount of weights in most physical therapy locations to even work on true strength. They're working on muscle endurance.
Mm.
So
Yeah.